Does anyone actually remember How to Train Your Dragon 3? I finally come to the realization that people just really like How to Train Your Dragon. Except for that one TV show, people say it's really not that good, apparently. People like this goofy little dragon so much that when I made a video on the first movie, people begged me to watch the second one, and when I finally watched the second one, people begged me to watch the third one. I'm sensing a pattern here. Now, I won't lie, the reception to the third movie seems kinda mixed. Sure, I've seen a lot of people saying that it's a banger, it's a masterpiece, and is the highest quality movie out of the three, but I've also seen people saying the third movie is the worst, the only bad one, it destroys all principles / relationships, and is fundamentally flawed as it does irreparable damage to the franchise. Well, damn. You got my attention. To remind you guys, I made a poll asking which movie you thought was the best, and How to Train Your Dragon 3 was the lowest voted answer. But does that mean that the third movie actually sucks? I had never watched the third installment before, so I was under the assumption that this movie just wasn't that good. The first two movies were so emotional and dark that I instantly got hooked and needed a solid week to mentally recover. I'm not kidding. But with all the slander surrounding the third movie, I genuinely had no idea what to expect. All I would hear about is how this movie isn't perfect and has a decent amount of issues. And while I agree that movies are subjective and you can like or hate whatever you want, I also happen to think that this movie is actually awesome and is probably the funniest yet somehow saddest installment in the franchise. I think a lot of people's judgment is clouded on this one. So today, I'll be taking a look at the third How to Train Your Dragon movie in full to really see what it's all about. Is it actually the worst one? Is it even really that bad? Okay, let's be honest with each other. Well, that's what we're gonna find out today, so grab your copy of How to Train Your Dragon for the Nintendo Wii. I tried really hard to find a physical version for this game. Couldn't find it. And without further delay, let's watch DreamWorks Animation's very own How to Train Your Dragon 3. Our adventure begins on a very spooky ship surrounded by very spooky fog. A dark atmospheric tone or a Silent Hill reference. I wonder which it could be. On this ship, we see some dragons caged up, seemingly imprisoned by these evil looking guards, which is when we get the most badass reveal in the entire franchise. Oh, damn. We got fire and everything. This dude looks like a Dark Souls boss. This guy, who's logged over 1,000 hours in Elden Ring, is obviously Hiccup. Him and Toothless have boarded this ship and are straight up aura farming, walking through fire together. Bro thinks he's Sephiroth. All jokes aside, Hiccup and Toothless are here because they want to save all these innocent dragons, and actually the rest of the OG gang is here with them. We have Snotlout, Roughnut, and Toughnut, Fishlegs, and of course we have Astrid, who, if you don't remember, is the best and absolutely my goat. It's important to mention here that everyone I just mentioned has their specific dragon. Over the course of this entire franchise, it's been properly established which dragon hangs out with who, and to be honest, some of these dragons are just as interesting as the human characters. I could probably go on and talk about the dragons for like a solid hour, to be honest, but I really want to focus on the third movie specifically here, so yeah, I don't know. You're out of luck for now, I guess. Anyway, as I mentioned, the mission here is for the gang to rescue all of these caged dragons. There's this funny moment when Roughnut calls this small little guy an idiot, but then proceeds to be an idiot.
Look at this weirdo. That is super dumb. Why can't I get this cage open?
This was definitely supposed to be a stealth mission, but someone alerted the guards, so we instead get a really cool action scene with lots of sword fighting. Cue the Skyrim music now. Again, it's just really cool to see how far some of these characters have grown since we first met them. It wasn't that long ago when everyone here was just an insecure kid trying to crowd please a village of animal murderers. Now they're all working together and taking down ships of pirate Viking terrorists. It's just nice to see. We love a good character arc. Once all the dragons are freed, the gang flies away into the darkness, because not only is this a medieval stealth game with RPG and hack and slash elements, but it's also an extraction shooter with a $15 battle pass. Before Toothless and Hiccup fly away, Toothless pauses for a sec next to one of the cages. There's nothing in there, however, so he just walks off. However, Toothless should have really taken another look, because a set of familiar eyes reveals themselves moments after he leaves. This is so interesting. I wonder what this could possibly be, said the person who's never watched the trailer, looked at the poster, or seen any promotional material for this movie at all. We'll climb that hill when we get to it though, because now is when everyone arrives back at their hometown, the Isle of Berk. It's a little different since the last time we saw it. Most notably, it's filled to the brim with dragons now. These Vikings are pretty lucky that dragons are friendly, because if they wanted to, the dragons could probably overtake this entire island. They outratio humans like 3 to 1 probably. I don't know. Surely dragons kill at least a couple people a couple times a year. Like, that thing was huge. No way he doesn't crush people on accident. We find out that whenever some dragons get too excited, Toothless makes them fall back in line since he's the king of the dragons now and everyone listens to him. This was revealed back in the second movie. Go watch my video on that if you haven't already. I swear it's a banger. But despite Toothless being able to keep the peace, the Isle of Berk is getting a bit crowded. There's just not enough room for everyone to live comfortably. This is immediately represented when everyone heads over to the common area for lunch. There's basically nowhere to sit and it's pure chaos. Food fight! During this, we learn more about each side character, which may or may not be important, to be honest. Tough Nut is constantly showing off his beard, despite it just being his regular hair. Rough Nut is a little boy crazy and just kind of a weirdo. Fish Legs is taking care of this baby dragon and acting like a father. And Snotlout has a crush on Hiccup's mom and tries to flirt with her all the time. I wish I was kidding. Gobber also mentions that it's about time for Hiccup and Astrid to get married, which they both get awkward about. At first, I was going to mention how they're both like 20 years old, so they're actually kind of young to get married. But then I remembered this movie takes place around 850 AD, and the average life expectancy back then was only around 30 to 40 years old, so actually 20 is like pretty late, to be honest. One clap for historical accuracy. This is when Eret shows up, completely redeemed from the last movie. I guess he's this dragon scouter now who lets the others know where they can go to save more dragons. Hiccup, of course, wants to save as many as he possibly can, but it's clear that Gobber fears for his safety.
One day, you're gonna pick a fight you can't win.
Switching moods entirely now, the movie cuts away to a villainous figure in the darkness. It's clear that this guy is pretty evil, based on him having two scorpion-looking dragons following him around. Everyone knows scorpions are evil. No need to elaborate. So quickly, I should mention that every movie that I watch, whether it's good or bad, always has some kind of nitpick. These usually aren't too serious, but they take me out of the viewing experience. And with this movie, as much as I hate to say it, it's this guy. This guy's name is Grimmel, and he's the main bad guy of this movie. We'll quickly learn just how menacing and calculated he can be. His dragons are awesome, and I think he's actually written super well. The only problem is, I just think he looks kind of goofy. The last movie had this real evil-looking dude, and this one has Nigel Thornberry mixed with Guy Fieri's hair.
Flavortown!
Overall, I think this character is actually really cool. I just think visually, he's a bit of an odd fella. Anyway, it turns out Grimmel isn't just a dragon hunter, but he's straight up a dragon killer. So when these bad guys ask Grimmel to get their dragons back, he doesn't seem to care. That is, until one of them mentions that they saw a Night Fury.
A Night Fury.
Oh no, dude. If they hurt Toothless, I swear I'm gonna punch my monitor as hard as I can. Okay, maybe I won't do that, but I'll be really sad. But then, crazy development when we find out that these bad guys have their very own Night Fury, seemingly the only other one in existence. And on top of that, this one is female and is given to Grimmel to use as a weapon. In all seriousness, this scene is kind of sad because you can see the dragon all chained up and stuff. And if you needed any further proof that Grimmel is kind of a badass, he solos this big dragon that randomly charges at him without even flinching. I hate to admit it, but bro's kind of cool. We then cut away to what seems to be a flashback between Hiccup and his father Stoick. Hiccup was just a baby back then and Stoick was still alive. R.I.P. my goat, I miss you every day. Despite just being an all-around emotional scene, this scene is a specific memory that Hiccup has of his father talking about a secret land for all dragons, or a hidden world, if you want to call it that. Cutting back to present times, and Hiccup looks on at his village, seeing it overrun, as he can't possibly house all of these dragons. It's not all bad though, because Toothless shows up and plays fetch with Hiccup's peg leg. I've said it before, but this dragon is basically just a dog that flies, and I love it. While Hiccup talks to Astrid for a bit, Toothless ends up going on his own somewhere because he hears a strange noise. While slowly checking it out, he happens to find a white female Night Fury dragon. This is the exact one we saw earlier tied up. This moment is a pretty special one in my opinion because it's the first time Toothless has ever seen another one of his kind. He's clearly flustered, and even though she's a bit apprehensive at first, the two seemingly connect over some 20-second eye contact. But then, the white Night Fury hears a branch snap in the distance and instinctively attacks. Turns out it's Hiccup and Astrid who made the noise, so Toothless tries to protect them. The girl gets scared and flies away into the void. She shoots her fire and just disappears in it. It's pretty mysterious. Honestly, my heart kind of aches in this scene, seeing Toothless this way. He's just staring into the sky, not knowing whether to be happy that he found another Night Fury or sad that he might not ever see it again. Astrid comes up with the name Light Fury instead of Night Fury, so that's what I'm calling this thing now. By the way, it's a clever name. I like it. The next day, Hiccup tells everyone about what they saw. Toothless is all goo goo gaga and slobbering everywhere because he's in love all of a sudden.
Relationships are nothing but pain and misery.
Hiccup is too real for that one. Look at him being like a father figure. Ah, this movie's gonna make me cry, isn't it? We even see Toothless practice some mating calls and eventually practice his kissing. It's pretty funny, honestly. Hiccup comes up with the idea of going back to the forest to see if they can find the Light Fury again, and Tough Nut tags along for some reason. His whole thing is that he's a man because he has a beard, so he's constantly trying to give Hiccup some marriage advice or something. The boy talk is cut short, however, when Hiccup notices a dart and a large trap exactly where the dragons met the night prior. Toothless almost fell into the trap since he was so distracted looking for the Light Fury. The love of his life almost got him killed. How poetic. Hiccup is obviously super alarmed by this since it means that their island has been compromised. Aerith actually chimes in and says that he recognizes the dart that was found as it belongs to Grimmel, the famous chef, famous bad guy. Aerith also gasses Grimmel up a bunch here, saying that he's the smartest dragon hunter he's ever met. I really like how this villain is just a guy who outsmarts everyone all the time instead of just like a really big, like mean, beefy, you know, I'm mean, I'm big, I'm gonna smash you. I believe in smart villain supremacy. Say what you want. Later that night, when Hiccup is checking his maps again, and Grimmel actually shows up in his room, this dude has to have dead silence on. How are his footsteps that quiet? Hiccup whips out his fire sword and is ready to fight, but Grimmel shoots Toothless with one of those darts right away. The two then have a very ominous conversation, and Grimmel is kind of funny, but in a scary, threatening way. This scene goes hard, trust me.
Do I say Chief Hiccup? Or do I call you Hiccup?
There's some interesting developments during this conversation. Most notably, Grimmel mentions how he knew Stoick and how he was a real chief who protected his village from evil dragons. This obviously makes Hiccup feel like trash since he's already second-guessing himself as a leader. But then we find out that Hiccup and friends actually outsmarted Grimmel because it wasn't Toothless he shot at earlier, but actually fish legs. He'll be fine. Probably. Everyone shows up ready to attack. Grimmel doesn't seem too intimidated though, as he whistles and two evil dragons show up and burn down the whole building. Hiccup and his mother almost getting burnt to a crisp until Grimmel lets them go and says that they better have Toothless ready for him once he returns. Essentially saying, have my dragon ready, I'll be back soon. This is when Hiccup calls for a town meeting and gives the most motivational speech of all time, letting everyone know what he has planned. Hiccup has decided that the Isle of Berk is no longer safe and that everyone here, including the dragons, need to move elsewhere. Everyone here agrees, so the next shot is them all flying aimlessly, looking for a place to live. I always wondered how people on this island really feel about Hiccup leading everyone. Like, yeah, he proved himself and he has Toothless, but he's also kind of just a kid. Like, there's got to be some 40-year-olds on this island that hate this guy for being a nepotism hire. Surely. While flying through the skies, everyone seems to be having a good time. Although there's no real plan, everyone here has each other, which is nice. While flying, Toothless actually spots the Light Fury again and chases after her, although she disappears again and no one knows where she went. Eventually, the village stops at a perfect island straight out of Wind Waker, and so far, things seem like they're going pretty good, until we cut to Grimmel with his massive 5-head being the smartest guy in the room yet again. He explains that Night Furies hate the cold, so they would avoid going north. The Vikings also want to avoid their enemies, so they would never go east or south. Also, Night Furies apparently can't fly much without rest, so the Vikings would need to stop at checkpoints constantly. Therefore, Grimmel has somehow perfectly predicted which island all the villagers will head towards. It's honestly really cool. I can never do this scene justice myself, but yeah, Grimmel has a big brain.
Isn't this fun? Yes?
This guy loves being a psycho. There's such a weird sense of like uneasiness when it comes to this guy. If only he didn't have that 2000s boy band hair. The village is setting up camp on this new island, although Hiccup is adamant that this is just a pit stop for the night. Others seem to be okay with staying here forever. Hiccup doesn't want to stay here though because he really wants to find the dragon's hidden world, the one his father told him about all those years ago. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier in the movie, but Gobber saw that one idiot dragon from the beginning and gets all scared. It plays like a jump scare for some reason. It's really scary.
We'll make room.
Well, now he sees even more of these things and gets even more scared. Apparently, if these show up, you're now cursed and it's a sign of misfortune. Turns out Gobber is a basic white girl who's into crystals and zodiac signs. Who would have guessed? This is when Hiccup has a serious conversation with his mother, who hasn't played a big role in this movie so far, sadly. She mentions how running away will only delay the inevitable, and that Hiccup might be forced to take stronger actions to protect the dragons he loves. It's a line that lets the viewer know how serious this movie can be at times, and how not every ending can read exactly like a fairy tale. During that night, the Light Fury appears and gets Toothless all excited. I mean, just look at this guy. Toothless follows her to a nearby beach, where he tries to act all tough and macho, but really, he's just a goofball. The Light Fury sits down and watches Toothless as if she's waiting to be impressed by him or something. Toothless, confused and with a total of 0 points put into his Riz stat, fumbles hard, until Hiccup shows up in the distance, out of sight from the Light Fury. Hiccup tries to help Toothless out by mimicking what he should be doing. It doesn't translate well though, and Toothless ends up doing God knows what. Seriously, I don't even know what to call this. It is all very charming though, and shows off just how charismatic Toothless really is, despite never speaking a single English word throughout this entire franchise. Eventually, Toothless decides to just be himself and to impress the Light Fury in his own way, which is by grabbing a stick and drawing something for her in the sand. This is an awesome callback to the first movie, where he did the exact same thing with Hiccup. Aw, a poorly drawn smiley face is like the nicest thing you could have ever given her. Genuinely the cutest character in all of cartoons, like I've seen enough. Now that it's daytime, the two share one final stare before the Light Fury flies away. Toothless tries to fly after her, but can't because he can't fly without Hiccup on his back because of his tail wing and all that. Toothless looks sad here, Hiccup looks sad here, everyone's sad. I'm about to tear up. But then, Hiccup does what he probably should have done a while ago, and that's fix Toothless's tail properly so he can fly on his own. It's this bittersweet moment where Toothless is super happy about it, but part of him feels guilty for leaving who is perhaps his only real family.
It's okay.
With Toothless finally on his own, he flies across the skies looking for his crush, and within a couple minutes, he actually ends up finding her. She leads him into a storm where Toothless is quickly taught how to do that disappearing thing she did at the start of the movie. Toothless does that now and levels up, even though he was already the strongest dragon ever, honestly. At the height of the excitement, these two share a long stare while the light is shining in the background, falling together and flying across the night sky while holding wings with each other, eventually both falling in a giant hole in the ocean surrounded by waterfalls. Now obviously, I'll get into this much later, but I think it's pretty normal for the audience to kind of think that Toothless is like cheating on Hiccup, for lack of a better term. These two did literally everything together, so for Toothless to fly off with someone else can feel a little undeserved. I don't think that feeling is invalid or anything, but I also don't really see it that way, personally. I know this can be a touchy subject with the fandom, but I think there's a lot more to unpack here than most people think. Anyway, yeah, I'll talk more about that later. Back at the village, and everyone is partying and getting drunk. I'm not kidding. Everyone seems to be having a good time, except for Hiccup, who's being quite anxious about not having Toothless by his side. He's gone full dad mode and worrying about something potentially going wrong and Toothless getting hurt. Also, Gobber sees even more of those idiot dragons. These things are called hobgobblers, by the way, but I'll probably just keep calling them idiots because it's funnier. But then Valka shows up and warns the others that Grimmel isn't too far away. She ran into him while flying, but got away. She must have been going very, very fast. Hiccup decides that he and the gang should attack Grimmel first, so they make their way over to invade his lair or something. I don't really know what this is. Everyone here does their best to sneak around, but it turns out this whole thing is a trap. Very unfortunate. Grimmel is there, and we get a bit of backstory on why he is the way he is. He explains that much like Hiccup, he too caught a Night Fury at a young age, although instead of letting it loose, he decided to kill it, which made him a hero in his village. Because of this, Grimmel never got to see how friendly the dragons could be, and continuously tries to hunt them down to this day. It's pretty cool having a character who's basically exactly like Hiccup, but one altering moment basically changed who he was forever. He's kind of like a what-if version of Hiccup if he sliced Toothless all that time ago.
They're dragon killers.
Damn. So he's drugging his dragons and making them kill other dragons? Flavor Town? More like bad behavior town. Get it? It's explained that because of the drugs Grimmel feeds his dragons, they're immune to Toothless's mind control alpha thing. Those dragons attack, but somehow everyone escapes. Everyone except Rough Nut, who casually rolls up next to Grimmel out of frustration because I guess all her friends left her behind.
Ugh, he takes that stupid baby everywhere.
The gang realizes they forgot her with Grimmel, so they come up with a plan to go get her, but Hiccup is even more sad since Toothless hasn't come back yet, and most people in the village just think he never will. Even Astrid lets Hiccup know that Toothless is free now, so he may decide to live his own life. There's like a genuine sadness on Hiccup's face here. Oh, man, I can't. Astrid, seeing how hurt he is, caves and decides to help Hiccup find Toothless. The two fly off, and Astrid's dragon immediately catches a scent. The two fall into a giant hole in the ocean, surrounded by waterfalls. This sounds familiar. The colors shift, the music shifts, the tone here shifts entirely, flying around, seeing a seemingly magical world underground made for dragons. This here is the hidden world Hiccup's dad told him about. There's a lot of dragons here. It's clearly not that hidden, if I'm being honest. And while, yeah, it's cool that they found this hidden world and are on track to find Toothless, I do want to note how important it is for Hiccup and Astrid to go on this adventure together. A detail so obvious most people forget to point it out, but Hiccup and Astrid are in this together. And regardless of the situation, they are always there for each other. While flying around in this hidden world, we quickly see Toothless and the Light Fury together, more comfortable now and in charge of the entire community of dragons. And although Toothless is perhaps the happiest he's ever been, Hiccup is visibly saddened as he realizes he might never get to spend time with Toothless ever again. Oh god. Yep. Yep, I'm teared up. It's such a happy, sad moment. I have no idea what to feel right now. How is a movie doing this to me? This is when Hiccup and Astrid get found and all the dragons in the area chase them down. Toothless recognizes them and helps them escape though, which you'd think would mean that everything is good now, but Toothless and Hiccup being both visibly upset despite being together again, it's at the cost of Toothless's freedom, and Hiccup knows that. Another flashback happens and reveals a talk Hiccup once had with his father after his mother went missing. Stoick crying and explaining that with love comes loss, and despite the tears, it's always worth it. I want to make an important note of this scene because it clearly reflects Hiccup's current situation with Toothless. Although not the same dynamic as his parents, Toothless was realistically Hiccup's first love, so letting go of him would just never be an easy thing for him to do. Once landed, Hiccup apologizes to Toothless, making sure he knows that he just wants the best for him. But then, during all of these shenanigans, Rough Nut was held prisoner by Grimmel, and I'm not joking, was so annoying that they just let her go. Classic Rough Nut.
I know what you're thinking. You've never had a prisoner this hot.
Sadly though, Rough Nut isn't the brightest bulb, because turns out this was all part of Grimmel's plan. He just let Rough Nut go and followed her straight to the island. Officially in the final act of the film now, Grimmel shows up and shoots both the Light Fury and Toothless. He does it like right away and then ties them up and captures them. His constant plotting and patient behavior has finally paid off. Although all the other dragons showed up to rescue them, Grimmel threatens to kill the Light Fury, so Toothless stops all the other dragons from approaching. Once again, Toothless could literally die as a direct cause of his crush simply existing. Gotta respect the hustle. All the dragons fly away from the island, and Grimmel drops what's maybe the most important line in the whole franchise.
But you are nothing without your dragon.
And this is when Hiccup completely melts down. With his confidence at an all-time low, he feels guilty about giving up on the dragons. He feels guilty about dragging everyone from the village along. And listen, there's actually so many plot points in this movie right now, and Hiccup in particular is dealing with so much at this very moment. In this movie so far, we're dealing with concepts like Hiccup getting married, Hiccup becoming a leader, Hiccup being like his dad, Hiccup missing his dad, Hiccup being a dad, Hiccup's love for Toothless, Toothless's love for the Light Fury, Hiccup learning to let go, dragons finding a real home, friends being there for you, what it's like to move on from heartbreak, finding your true love, and even growing old. All of these are ideas presented in this one movie, and it balances it out all so naturally. This movie is overwhelming, but not in the amount of information it dumps, but in the emotion it constantly makes you feel. And it's only in this particular moment when Hiccup realizes that he is more than just a guy who got lucky and found a Night Fury. Thanks to Astrid giving him the most heartfelt speech in the franchise, Hiccup realizes that the love of his life has been next to him through every step of his journey. He was always brave and caring and loving. He always had the qualities to be who he wanted to be. It's all presented in a beautiful way. I can't do this movie justice. It's great. Hiccup comes up with the idea to use his iconic wingsuit to fly to Grimmel and all the dragons. Everyone has one of these now, which is really cool. This is also very in theme of being worth more than just the dragons who accompany you. Anyway, Grimmel now has all the dragons loaded up into cages, and it's really sad. He's about to kill Toothless once and for all, but then Hiccup and the gang show up, flying by themselves. They knock Grimmel down and free most of the dragons, causing a huge fight between everyone. There's even an Avengers moment where they all stand in shot and pose for a second. This would go super hard as a framed picture, honestly. Tough Nut loses his beard, even though it's not really his beard. Gobber finally ends up befriending the Hobgobbler dragons and uses them to eliminate some random dude. It's such a perfectly directed shot. The explosion in the back while they're just staring at each other, not caring at all. What a great film, man. Hiccup frees Toothless, but Grimmel has one more trick up his sleeve as he grabs the Light Fury and rides her off into the distance. As Toothless and Hiccup fly, the drug dragons cover him up, but thanks to the overwhelmingly present power of love, Toothless goes Super Saiyan and takes them all out at once. Sadly though, in the middle of this, Hiccup jumps onto the Light Fury just as Toothless gets shot with a sleep dart. Hiccup makes the ultimate sacrifice, freeing the Light Fury and asking her to save Toothless, while letting himself and Grimmel fall to their deaths. The Light Fury does exactly that, bringing Toothless to safety. However, due to the very clear bond shared between Toothless and Hiccup, the Light Fury goes back to save him as well, allowing Grimmel to finally meet his fate. He may be the smartest character in the franchise, but he's flawed nonetheless. The two back on land, Hiccup and Toothless share a moment together, Hiccup explaining that he was so busy fighting for a world he wanted that he didn't even think about what Toothless Toothless potentially needed. Everyone around realizing that dragons should be able to fly freely without the shackles of humanity bound to them. All living creatures deserving freedom, as they're all capable of care, anger, sadness, and love. Toothless properly giving Hiccup a farewell hug, and the two ending their final interaction the same way that they started it. Toothless and the Light Fury fly back to the hidden world alongside every dragon following them, the only way it was always meant to be. We cut to many months later with snow filling the island. Finally, I feel like this is the first time we've ever seen snow, by the way. Hiccup and Astrid are getting married at last, choosing to put their confidence and love in each other. Funnily enough, Roughnut chooses fish legs at the very end because he's an emotional guy and she likes that. Just thought that was funny.
Okay, you win. I like sensitive guys.
Skipping a long time after now, and we see Hiccup fully bearded telling his two children a story involving a world filled with dragons, unrealistic for the time as dragons haven't been around in ages. The family sailing around the ocean when Hiccup sees a familiar face in the distance. A dark black dragon, and next to him a beautiful white dragon and children of their own. The dragon approaching the boat, first cautiously as it's been a while, but after some tension and Hiccup putting his hand up, Toothless remembers and immediately goes in for a hug. The two being able to bond after all of this time, and Hiccup being able to share his love for dragons with his children for the very first time. The entire family, both human and dragon, fly off into the distance, potentially sharing one final moment together before going their separate ways. The world doesn't know about the existence of dragons, but the Burkians seem to know otherwise. And the story goes that the secret will be kept until one day the dragons can finally return in peace. And that was the final How to Train Your Dragon movie. Ooh, are we good? I got the sniffles. I gotta chill for a second. This was my very first time watching this entire franchise. Man, what a journey that was. What I initially thought would be a goofy movie about some dragons and some teens quickly ended up being an emotional roller coaster with a masterclass in filmmaking. A story about an awkward kid who just wants to fit in, turning into the brave leader of his entire village. A story about friendship, about love, about loss. It was never easy, but it always mattered. A lot of people will come out and say that this is the worst movie in the entire franchise, and some people will say that this movie in general just isn't that good. And while I can understand why some people feel that way, I have to totally disagree. I know that having an ending with such a clear outcome can sometimes be disappointing, but it also allows the creator to fully flesh out what they wanted to achieve. I think most people were just sad to see it end at all, and like, trust me, I'm in the same boat. But how wonderful is it that we get a proper ending instead of the seemingly endless pit of pointless sequels nowadays? The common criticism that this goes against the whole point of the franchise, that being an unbreakable bond between Hiccup and Toothless, is a bit lost on me, since really the franchise was never about that bond. Sure, their friendship is the reason we fell in love with the movies, but it runs much deeper than that. This movie is about finding yourself. It's about utilizing crutches to help you and getting rid of those crutches when they aren't necessary anymore. It's about how every creature is capable of love and respect, and it's about allowing yourself to love and respect others as well. I always think back to that flashback with Stoick and Hiccup when I said that they directly reference the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless. Like, yeah, it's sweet in that context, but I think this scene is actually more about the relationship between Hiccup and Astrid. Being able to love each other with no restrictions, and realizing your soulmate will always be by your side no matter what. Toothless loved Hiccup, but he wasn't right for this world and deserved much better. And although even I would love nothing more than for Toothless and Hiccup to go on adventures together forever, eventually these two need to live their own lives. So is this the best movie in the franchise? Honestly, on a technical level, maybe not. You can argue it isn't, but being the very last film, it's the only one that brings all of these themes to a proper conclusion. And that's why I think How to Train Your Dragon 3 is the best one. To quote the great late A.A. Milne, how lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. I loved these movies, and I'm so happy you guys made me watch them. And that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and comment. It helps out the channel a bunch. If you want to see more and support me directly, you can click the join button on my channel to become a member. It starts at only $1 and gets your name on the screen at the end of all my future videos. I will be posting some members exclusive content where I react to movies in full soon, so get excited for that. Thank you to all my current members for supporting me. The support means the world to me, seriously. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid 3 amazing movies out of 5. And yeah, thanks for watching.
know what you're thinking.